I'm Maria Palmer. I have been receiving ketamine therapy for about 2 months now, 3 months. It really started this part for me last year during the pandemic, when I had to, move like every other millennial, had to move back in with my parents, my family. Just being in that environment again and having to go back, a lot of things arose in my brain, and things that I knew all I could feel was a sense of unease. All I can feel was wanting to run and crawl out of my own skin, and I just kept trying to figure out why. And I kept looking for every reason why that would be happening. And I went through, this year of trying to figure out what's going on in my brain. But I didn't have access to therapy. I was financially completely wrecked. I didn't have access to any sort of medications that I could ever possibly need. And all of these thoughts are resurfacing in my brain. And specifically, especially during my teenage years, my brother was wounded in Afghanistan in 2010. And that was a big shock, obviously, for me, but for my whole family. I remembered that happening, and that had arisen, and just how that trauma affected our whole family. And especially happening during my teenage years, and my parents don't have time to deal with a son that could be potentially losing his leg and becoming a cripple, and I'm in high school, and I am going from private school to public school, and I'm feeling lost in the mix, and I have another brother too who's also feeling lost in the mix. And just all of that resurfaced during the pandemic, because for once I had no money, I had no idea what was going on in the future. My brain had a lot of time to think. And then I finally got an amazing job. I was able to lift myself up to a place I never thought that I would be financially. I have this amazing husband who has this just wonderful daughter, and his ex-wife is so wonderful too. And it was just, okay, everything is great. Why aren't I happy? I kept trying to figure out what was wrong, and I couldn't do it, and I just kept getting stuck in this loop in my brain. Why aren't I happy? What's going on? What happened in my childhood? Why do I have all these symptoms of all of this trauma? Why am I frankly relating to all of these memes? But I don't know. I don't know what's wrong. I don't know what's wrong. And it literally drove me insane, to me getting to a point where, had I not had my husband and my child in my life that I cared about so much, I would have killed myself. I didn't want, it was so incredibly unbearable to know logically that I had all of the things that I was supposed to have, and they were supposed to make me happy. And why the hell wasn't I happy? And I didn't even feel that I could go to anyone about it, because my life hadn't been that bad. Nothing had been that bad. And finally, after being awake for 2 days straight, because I was stuck in such a loop that I couldn't fall asleep, I called my brother, the one that had been to Afghanistan and the one that had gone through that trauma, and he had been shot in front of his men. And I called him up because he was someone I could trust, and I didn't know who I could trust at that point. But I knew that if he thought that I was going through it, it must mean that I was going through it. And so I called him, and he was talking me through it and listening to what I was saying. And he was like, yeah, there's something up here. And I still didn't know what to do. And I texted my coworker, who's also a patient here. And she had put Dr. Bow's number in my phone a few months before, because she had picked up on a lot of the things that I was saying. And she was like, call him. And I got in here, and they were just so calm and patient with me. And I wasn't used to that. I was really used to, again, obviously I can talk, and being told that was too much all the time. I was always too much. And I just needed some patience in my life. And they were so patient with me. And I felt like such a burden. And they didn't make me feel like I was a burden at all. And they got me in, and they put me in this very cozy chair. And they put a weighted blanket on me because I was so anxious and so free. And I was trembling between being cold and being depressed and being anxious and all of these different things. PTSD. Now I know in retrospect is what that was. And they set me up, and they made me comfortable, and I was able to, after just one treatment, and part of that is just being so, like, I was willing to be better, and I can say that in retrospect. I wanted to get better, and that is such a huge part of it, I think. But after that one, just because I wanted to get better, I think, so bad, I did. And this treatment is so effective, I think, for it, like, especially if you get to the end of that rope. And frankly, it wasn't an option for me, even if I'd wanted to, financially where I was, to be able to see a psychiatrist as regularly as I would have needed to. And I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait 2 weeks for any sort of antidepressant to even be able to see if that works. And then if that one doesn't work, then we have to go on another one, and we have to go on another one until we find it. And it's like, I get why that works for some people, but it was not going to work for me at the mental state that I was in. I needed something that could work effectively immediately, and it did.